All right, everybody. This is our January 26th DraftKings tennis breakdown. As of right now, it's shown as a 6 o'clock p.m. Central Standard Time slate, but today it changed to 7 o'clock p.m. So just the full day slate. There's only one slate since there's only 8 matches. Just like yesterday, same abbreviations. HC is hard court. BRK, ADV is break advantage. Again, that's how many more breaks or less breaks they're averaging than their opponents. NFWL is DraftKings points, not from win-loss. So aces, breaks, losing points for double faults, those things. The higher over 30 you are, the better. If you're under 30, that is not good because you start off with 30. So there we go. We're going to get into it. The first match we're going to talk about is Elise Mertens. She's $6,800 versus Simona Halep, $8,600. Elise Mertens' key stats. She has a 17.7 RFS score. She's 40-25 in 65 measured matches overall with a 1.43 break advantage, winning 52.6% of her points. And then on hard court, she's won 66% of 44 matches with a 1.61 break advantage in those matches and 53.2% of her points won, averaging 57 DraftKings points with 30.8 not from win-loss. So she's better on the hard court than she is overall. So this is, it is her best surface. So strong hard court player. Simona Halep's key stats: she's a 16.6 RFS score, 43 and 15 in 58 measured matches with a 1.6 break advantage, winning 52.9% of her points. And on hard court, she's won 69% of those matches with a 0.97 break advantage, which as you can see is significantly lower than her overall, and 51.6% of points won, which is significantly lower than her overall. On hard court, she's averaging 56 DraftKings points with 31.6 not from win-loss per hard court match. So Mertens is the stronger hard court player of the two, as you can see. It's her best surface, Halep's worst. So give me Mertens by 0.8 breaks. All right, the next one is Kanta Veit. She's 8,000 versus Iga Swiatek, 7,300. Kanta Veit, she's a 16.4 RFS score. She's 21-16 in 37 measured matches overall with a 0.37 break advantage, winning 50.9% of her points. On a hard court, she's a better player than overall, winning 63% of her 24 measured hard court matches with a 0.62 break advantage and 51.4% of her points won. And on those hard court matches, she's averaging 52.4 DraftKings points with 31.5 not from win-loss. And then Iga Swiatek, who I guess after her match, it's Swiatek is how you're supposed to say it, so I got to get used to that. 14.3 RFS score, 17-11 in 28 measured matches with a 0.47 break advantage, winning 51.2% of her points. On hard court, she's won 63% of 16 measured matches with a 0.59 break advantage and 51.7% of her points. So that's better on hard courts as well than her overall. If you look at it on percentage-wise, their hard court numbers are pretty close to being even. Both of them had injuries late last year. That's why kind of both of their matches are down a little bit. Swiatek's an up-and-comer. Kanta Veit's kind of been around a little bit longer, so I'm going to go with her. That was an awesome performance she gave against Belinda Bencic the other day. Not that Swiatek's wasn't, but give me Kanta Veit by just one break, 1.0. All right, and the next one is going to be Anastasia Pavlychenko, who's 7,700, versus Angelique Kerber, who's 7,600. So they're pretty close priced. Pavlychenko, she's a 15.7 RFS score, 25-21 in 46 measured matches with a 0.23 break advantage, winning 50.6% of her points. And then she's a better hard court player, winning 60% of her 40 measured hard court matches with a 0.62 break advantage and 51.3% of her points won. 50.3 DraftKings points with 29.3 not from win-loss per hard court match. So she's not a strong player as far as DraftKings points scoring. She does get breaks, but she kind of double faults a little bit too much. So that's what keeps her below 30. And then Angie Kerber, she's a 14.9 RFS score, 30-19 in 49 measured matches with a 1.02 break advantage, winning 51.9% of her points. And then on hard court, she's won 60% of those 35 measured matches with a 1.01 break advantage and 52% of her points won. And then she's averaging 53.1 DraftKings points with 30.6 not from win-loss per hardcourt match. And so as you can see, Kerber has the better stats and the better pedigree, but kind of why her RFS score is down is that she was pretty much brutal all the way at the end of last year, and then obviously came out in this tournament and has had a very strong tournament, so she's working her way back up. But Pavlychenko has been pretty dang strong for a while. So that recent form, I mean, Pavlychenko went to the semis here last year, I believe, semis or quarters, but she made a deep run here last year. Kerber kind of exited early here last year, so she's already got a lot more points than she got last year. Pavlychenko hasn't. I mean, Pavlychenko, that match against Pliskova, I just thought was awesome. I mean, she battled, competed, and she's gone through the ringer, but was able to get through it in straight sets. And I don't think Kerber's just had that battle yet like that. So I'm going to go with Pavlychenko by 0.5 breaks. And even though, I mean, Angie Kerber, she could definitely win that match. I mean, she's one of the more experienced players left in the tournament. But I like to let Pavlychenko play the other night. I'm going with her by 0.5 breaks, close match. And then we got Kiki Bertens, 7,200 versus Garbiñe Muguruza, who's 8,200. Kiki Bertens' key stats, she's a 16.5 RFS score, 57 and 23 in 80 measured matches with a 1.15 break advantage, winning 52.1% of her points. And then on hard court, she's won 66% of those 47 matches with a 0.72 break advantage, winning 51.5% of her points. And then scoring 52.6 DraftKings points with 31.1 not from win-loss per hardcourt match. Garbiñe Muguruza, she's a 16 RFS score. She's 27 and 14 in 41 measured matches with a 0.87 break advantage, winning 51.6% of her points. And then she's won 67% of 33 measured hardcourt matches with a 0.81 break advantage and winning 51.3% of her points. And then she's averaging 54.2 DraftKings points with 32.4 not from win-loss per hardcourt match. So pretty close. If you look at those hardcourt stats, I mean, that's pretty close. Obviously, Kiki Bertens played more matches, but that's pretty dang close. Kiki Bertens has the better overall numbers. Very strong clay court player. I mean, Muguruza, she looked dominating last night against Svitolina. I mean, she really did. She was controlling that entire match pretty much. Controlling points, staying aggressive. She looked really good. But, I mean, she broke serve 4 times, which is good. But that's not incredible or anything for women's tennis, at least. And Kiki Bertens has a very, very good serve. And the only way I see her breaking Kiki Bertens consistently enough to win the match is if Kiki Bertens is making a lot of unforced errors or double faulting a lot or something like that. So I don't think that's going to happen. Kiki Bertens looked in form. So give me Kiki Bertens in a very, very tight match. I can see it going 3 sets, maybe a couple of tie breaks even. So give me Kiki Bertens by 0.15 breaks, tight match. But I like Kiki Bertens' price, especially since Garbiñe is $1,000 more. So give me Kiki. And then this is a match that if you watch tennis, I think you should watch. It should be a very, very fun one. Andrey Rublev is 7,900. Alex Zverev is 7,500. Andrey Rublev has a 16.3 RFS score. He's 53 and 22 in 75 measured matches with a 1.08 break advantage, winning 52.1% of his points. And then on hard courts, he's won 75% of 57 matches with a 1.37 break advantage. So obviously he's even better on hard courts than he is overall, winning 52.6% of his points. And 59.1 DraftKings points with 32.6 not from win-loss per hardcourt match. Solid numbers right there from Rublev. Alex Zverev, 14.8 RFS score. He's 43 and 27 in 70 measured matches with a 0.51 break advantage, winning 51.3% of his points. And then on hard courts, he's won 61% of 41 measured matches with a 0.3 break advantage, winning 51.4% of his points. 50.7 DraftKings points with 30.7 not from win-loss per hardcourt match. Those numbers should be even higher, but he had a absolutely horrendous double fault streak going on for a long time coming into this tournament, and he has not been double faulting like that. I mean, last match he had 0 double faults, But I mean, he hasn't been in a match that has been close yet. So I'm not quite ready to believe that has gone away all of a sudden. And Andrey Rublev has been one of the hottest guys on tour, probably the hottest guy on tour. He won both of his finals before this tournament to start the season. Won 2 tournaments in a row. Obviously, that could kind of be hurting him as far as fatigue and stuff. But, I mean, he's a young guy. I mean, he played a 4-setter last match. That was a physical match against David Goffin. I mean, so that could be kind of the only issue with Rublev, but I'm going to believe that maybe he looks a little bit rough at the start of the match and then kind of works his way into form. It could be a long, long match. Should be a very tight match, but I think in the end, Rublev pulls away. Give me Rublev by 1.4 breaks. And then we got Dominic Thiem, who is 9,400, versus Gael Monfils, who is 6,000. Dominic Thiem's key stats, he's a 16.5 RFS score. He's 49-17 in 66 measured matches with a 1.08 break advantage, winning 52.3% of his points. And then on hard courts, he's won 75% of those 36 matches with a 0.9 break advantage and 51.9% of his points. And then he's averaging 57.2 DraftKings points with 32.2 not from win-loss per hardcourt match. So obviously, very solid numbers right there from Dominic Thiem, as you would expect for a top 5 player. The hardcourt numbers are not as good as the overall numbers because he's a very good clay court player, but still solid hardcourt numbers. And then Gael Monfils, he's a 12.8 RFS score. He's 41-19 in 60 measured matches with a 0.89 break advantage, winning 51.9% of his points. And then on hard courts, he's won 72% of 47 measured matches with a 1.06 break advantage and 52.3% of his points won. And so obviously you can see there those hard court numbers are pretty dang good, better than his overall numbers. 57.3 DraftKings points with 31.4 not from win-loss per hard court match. If there's a surface that Gael Monfils would beat Dominic Thiem on, it would be a hard court for sure if you look at those numbers. But, I mean, Gael Monfils had a stretch kind of early, middle part of last year on hard courts where he was just absolutely dominating. Then he got injured. Then he came back, and he did not look good. And then he made a good run at the U.S. Open and then really didn't do anything else. So that's why his RFS score is low for the numbers that you're seeing there. I mean, 41-19, that is very, very good. But I would have to go and look it up exactly. But that stretch that he had, I mean, he was just absolutely dominating. That's where a lot of those numbers came from. And we really haven't seen that level again since. So, again, his RFS score was a lot higher than that during that stretch. So he does have that kind of potential. Very athletic guy, been around for a long time. I mean, he's a very high seed in this tournament as well. I mean, he got a lot of points last year. So he can play. But at the end of the day, I just don't think Monfils is like in his top form. I don't think he's in his top health. So, and Dominic Thiem, I mean, he looks really, really good. The way he hits the ball, I mean, he can move Gael Monfils around a lot. He's going to be running a lot. But Monfils can track down some balls and maybe teams not used to being tracked down. So, but at the end of the day, I think that heavy hitting of teams is going to wear Monfils down more than the fact that teams have to play more points, wear him down. I could see Monfils taking an early set or something, but in the end, I think team's going to be kind of dominating the end of that match. Give me Thiem by 2.4 breaks. And then we got Daniil Medvedev. He's 9,700 versus Stan Wawrinka, who is 5,600. Medvedev is a 16.8 RFS score. He's 62-21 in 83 measured matches with a 1.48 break advantage, winning 53.5% of his points. And then he's won 79% of 62 measured hardcourt matches with a 1.69 break advantage, winning 54.2% of his points. So you can see, obviously a great player overall, and then even better on hard courts. 64.3 DraftKings points with 33.4 not from win-loss in those hard court matches. And then Wawrinka, he's had a very, very solid year. Obviously has won multiple Grand Slams. Very, very great player. But he had that injury. He's been working his way back. But last year, I mean, or this year rolling, that's what all these stats are. It's last year rolling. I mean, he's had a very good year. He's a 15.1 RFS score, 33-19 in 52 measured matches with a 0.65 break advantage, winning 51.7% of his points. And then he won 66% of 35 measured hardcourt matches with a 0.62 break advantage, 51.7% of his points won. So, I mean, he's an all courts player. Those numbers are almost dead even between overall and hard courts. So that's pretty cool. Wawrinka's he's a solid player. 58.5 DraftKings points with 35.7 not from win-loss. 35.7 not from win-loss is really, really good. That's because he gets a lot of aces. He doesn't double fault very often. So solid. That's what when you look at Wawrinka's stats, I mean, that's what I think is he's solid. This is a rematch of this past year's U.S. Open quarterfinal. Medvedev, I mean, he was not looking good in that match. He was kind of like on the run that Rublev is coming into this tournament, where he'd played a lot, he'd won a lot, but Medvedev's streaks was even longer. So he was just almost completely broken down in that match. It looked like, I mean, he was barely walking at the start of the set, or at the start of the match, and somehow managed to hold his serve and got that into a tiebreak, I believe, and won that first set. And as the match went on, you could kind of see his legs loosened up for him, and he played a lot better at the end than he did at the start. And he won the match. I mean, he wasn't even at 100%. He won the match. He hasn't really been pushed deep in this tournament yet, so he should be fresh. Wawrinka got the retirement against Isner last match, but he had a long match against Seppi before that. So I'd say, like, as far as conditioning, they should both be fine as far as their conditioning goes, in good shape. Not really been run down. So we could possibly see a very, very fun match to watch here. They could both have lots of full energy, playing at 100%. Two great players. We could see some very, very fun rallies in this match. It's going to be a fun match to watch. I would love to see Wawrinka win. He's one of my favorite players, but I think Medvedev's going to beat him again. I mean, he beat him hobbled in New York. So give me Medvedev by 1.35 breaks. And then we got another one that's going to be fun to watch. Tomorrow's a fun day of tennis to watch. It really is. We got Rafa Nadal, who is $10,300, versus Nick Kyrgios, who is $5,000. Sorry, I'm watching this point of this Fognini-Sandgren match right now. It has been a crazy match. Fognini looked like he was going to quit for a second, but now he's back in it, starting to get back in. He's not in it yet, but he just got a break. He was 2 breaks down in the second set after losing the first set tie break. So now he's down serving 2-4. But sorry, back to Rafa Nadal versus Nick Kyrgios. Nadal, obviously, check these numbers out. If these don't fire you up, you must not like tennis or appreciate greatness. He's an 18 RFS score. He's 64-9 in 73 measured matches with a 2.32 break advantage, winning 55.9% of his points. He's won 88% of 43 measured hardcourt matches with a 2.11 break advantage, winning 55.4% of his points. He's averaging 70 DraftKings points with 32.9 not from win-loss per hardcourt match. Dominance. Kyrgios, really good numbers as well, but not on that level. He's a 14.1 RFS score. He's 28-13 in 41 measured matches with a 0.6 break advantage, winning 50.6% of his points. And he's a stronger player on hard courts, winning 74% of 34 measured matches with a 0.8 break advantage, winning 51.1% of his points. He's averaging 60.9 DraftKings points with 36.3 not from win-loss per hardcourt match. He can serve very, very well. As we all know, he gets a lot of aces, doesn't double fault a lot, and he's been getting some breaks in this tournament. So as far as DraftKings scoring goes, he's very, very good. There's so much that we could talk about this match. Obviously, first and foremost, these two have beef. Kyrgios has beat him 3 out of 7 times. Not very many people have done that against Nadal, and Nadal does not like to lose. He's very competitive, so that's obviously under his skin. And just people like Kyrgios, and they think he does. He has tons of potential. He could win if he would focus all the time, keep his cool. If he was like Rafa Nadal, I mean, obviously he'd be one of the greatest of all time, probably. So he's got all the tools. But I think it was a press conference. It was pretty funny. At a press conference, somebody said something to if. I think it was they played at Wimbledon and Nadal beat him. It was a good match. And they're like, if, Nick would train like he or something, would he win a Grand Slam? And Nadal starts going, if he doesn't. So that obviously Kyrgios did not like that, obviously. So they've got beef. This is Nick Kyrgios' home slam. Obviously the terrible bushfires and stuff, they're going in Australia. Kyrgios was leading the way in that. I mean, this tournament means a lot to him. So it should be a great match, but Kyrgios did have to go 5 sets last night against Karen Khachanov in an epic. That was a fun one to watch. I stayed up till 6:45 in the morning watching the match because there's no way I was going to go to sleep at that point. We had a good DraftKings tennis night last night, so I was up making sure that he won. He was in our lineup. But I think Khachanov, I think that he took the energy out of Kyrgios that he's going to need to be able to beat. He does have the tools to be able to beat Nadal. He really, really could. But to beat Nadal in a 5-set match, you're going to have a lot of energy. There's going to be a lot of ups and downs. And I think, obviously, the crowd and stuff in Australia is going to do everything they can to keep Nick energized. But I don't think he's going to be able to do it. Not after that 5-setter. I would love to see it just because I am rooting for him in this tournament. I think that would be super cool to see him win with everything that's going on in Australia. But I love Nadal too. Give me Nadal by 2.6 breaks in a good match, but one that Nadal kind of dominates the end. All right, and that's it. Again, we're sponsored by Rank Fantasy Sports. You can go and check us out, www.rankfantasysports.com, R-A-N-K, like rankings, rankfantasysports.com. You have a 7-day free trial there. You can find even more tennis stats than we're talking about here. You'll find full projections for the DraftKings slates. We do it for NBA, NFL, NCAA football, and then NCAA basketball during March Madness, and then we also do it for golf. So 7-day free trial, and then it's only $9.99 a month after that. So very, very good deal when it comes to daily fantasy sports projections. And we want to be a place where if you don't have the time to follow a sport as closely as you might need to have the edge, that you can come to our site, use our cheat sheets, make a lineup very fast, quick and easy, you're out. And then we like to do things like this too. So I hope you enjoyed this video. We'd appreciate any feedback. Like, share it, comment on it, subscribe to us. We'd love that. So thank you so much for watching. Everybody have a good night.